Amazon may be in the crypto business and Bitcoin may be making it to 40K. Today we're going to dive into it deep. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Tech Path. And of course, as you guys know, we cover a lot of cryptocurrency here, blockchain technology, kind of the innovation of where companies are moving in this space, along with EV and some other innovative technologies that kind of move around on Tech Path. If you are new, make sure and subscribe. If you like those kind of topics, this is the place for you. Let's get into it today a little bit on kind of what happened over the weekend. As everybody knows, Bitcoin, of course, started taking off. Everybody was wondering, okay, what's happening in the marketplace? What's causing this movement? Why is Ethereum and all of the altcoins moving with it? And a lot of people were kind of pointing to Amazon, and I want to dive into that. But before we get there, let's take a look at the current market cap, holding in at 1.5 trillion. Haven't seen the 1.5 trillion in a while, so let's zoom in on that just to give you guys a nice little love spat there. 1.5 trillion, and of course Bitcoin hovering in around a 38 to 39 range. Saw it hit a little bit in the mid 39s already today. We'll jump over to Trade the Chain, take a quick look of sentiment, and of course sentiment kind of following along, and this is the 7-day chart here on Trade the Chain, which scores sentiment and also looks at the application of how the price correlates to it. In some cases, those kind of scenarios don't necessarily line up perfectly. We've been tracking that on our sentiment data. We do layer in a little bit more data in the sense of what we do is look at forward-facing indicators on amplification, which starts to measure how potentially things are moving based on the uptake of conversations on social media. As you guys all know, that's how kind of Trade the Chain works. Let's talk a little bit about Amazon, and then we'll go into maybe some of the aspect of where this particular situation has caused or maybe has started a little bit of a windfall for Bitcoin in terms of movement towards the upside, and maybe this is the Kickstarter for the bull run that is coming. Amazon is rumored to accept Bitcoin by the end of 2021. And of course, and develop basically their own currency, which is really good. This came from an anonymous source inside the organization. So this has some really good connective points if you start putting the dots together and kind of look at where this is going. And of course, that is something that people are looking at. Here's the key and the basis of what they're claiming is that Bitcoin would be the first cryptocurrency that Amazon would essentially start utilizing for purchase, and potentially if Amazon does something either in a coin or in a wallet, all of this could really start to move Amazon into a very strategic position. They are also talking about that we would see other coins eventually coming into the mix, including Ethereum, Cardano, and Bitcoin Cash. So all of those would be welcome sights, I think, on Amazon. The question I have, and I think a lot of you have, and I know that, you know, it's kind of like when Tesla and Elon started moving it. Yes, we started to see that shift. Even though Amazon is very important, I think the key here is going to be the whole idea around adoption. And I think that's going to be the factor to watch here, because adoption rate on Bitcoin is still very low. Only about 40 plus million Americans are either invested in cryptocurrency. If you think about that, maybe that's 20% of the active investment community out there. Very, very low when you look at how much it's moved just on this last bull run. I want to also jump over to where Amazon is on their earnings, because this is a company that is continuing to essentially perform as they crush their Q1 earnings. And just to give you a framework, this is 108.5 billion in Q1 revenue. That's up 44%, which is just insane, with profits of 8.1 billion, which is up 224%. So the point being here is that this company, when they do something and when they go into a particular market, they pretty much create a complete dynamic around either one, a very disruptive nature. You've seen it in the retail side, you've seen it in the shipping centers, you've seen it in the food aspect with Whole Foods acquisition. You've seen Amazon do some pretty amazing things in terms of getting into markets and completely disrupting them. And I think that's where they're heading. Just to give you a scope of where Amazon's stats are, this is some interesting part of this, because I think a lot of this when you look at where cryptocurrency, especially if they launch their own coin, will be tied to, is most likely going to be tied to Amazon Prime. So look here, boasting over 213 million US visitors per month. That's the site. And then the tech giant also, this is of course some of their reported numbers there in terms of revenue, but this is the number that I'm most interested in, which is the Prime members. This was the 2019 number. The 2020 number is around 220 million global members on Prime. And then the number of Amazon Prime members in the United States, 112 million. That's edging up around almost 122, 123 million right now in 2021. And the likelihood is they're going to continue to see heavy growth in this area. So look at this also right here. Average, I just want to go back to this, average annual amount spent by, this is still a 2019 number, 14, this is all pre the V word, you know, so that's a huge number. If that's 1,400 in 2019, I have not seen any release data, but we could see that maybe up as much as 20 to 25% in 2021, which would easily put that around $1,700 a year in terms of purchasing power. So if you just think about purchasing power of $1,700 a year times, and this is back into the United States, this is again just US numbers, and times that over the 125 million or so Prime members across the year, then just take a factor of that on percentage-wise of what kind of penetration. I'm going to do a revenue potential and what this potentially could mean in market cap for not only Bitcoin or some of these other alt currencies, but also, or alt projects, but also what it could mean for Amazon, because I think that's where they're going with this in terms of their own DeFi projects. And just to prove the case here is Amazon working right here has hired a regulatory team. This piece right here was done back a couple of months ago, back in May, and this was basically Amazon prepping up a regulatory team there in essentially the UK. So I think this is a global move that they're really going after. They also at that same time started posting jobs. Back in May, they were looking to get their division lead for digital and emerging payments, their debt department. But in addition to that, getting into the regulatory side of this, which of course Amazon's, because of their lobbying power and their ability to move in those circles, especially in DC, this could have a huge impact on how this rolls out on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, especially around, as I said, around the aspect of adoption rate, people getting into crypto maybe for the first time or buying into a DeFi project or some of these other altcoins. This is a definite big win and potentially a big win for just cryptocurrency in general. I believe this is going to happen 100%. I don't think we're going to see, it's just too big of a project and marketplace now that Amazon doesn't move into this, and payments has always been a big factor of theirs. And it's one of those things that just is going to continue to move along with it. I want to jump to this last story and then we'll go to a chart on kind of where Bitcoin has moved and why I think it's all kind of connected here. But right here, again, this is a little bit newer in terms of Amazon and what they're looking for. Now they're looking for experts in the digital currency and blockchain space. They are going after a whole approach on this. So listen to the description right here. You'll leverage your domain expertise in blockchain, distributed ledger, central bank, digital currencies, and cryptocurrency to develop a case for the capabilities which should be developed or drive overall vision and product strategy. They are going all in on this. And when you look back at the first story I mentioned to you in the video here, is the insider basically said that this is not even an if project, it is a when project. And the fact that they are all in, they're talking about having this implemented by the end of 2021. So we're talking within 6 months. Here we are in July, latter July of 2021, and Amazon is just around the corner of potentially having a cryptocurrency platform, potentially an Amazon coin. Could that be the Prime coin? That would be interesting to see how this could all play into that. I want to jump to a chart. We did this video last week talking about where Bitcoin could potentially go and what it might look like. The sentiment that we had scored in the previous run-up, which was July 12th, right here through July 19th, sentiment was holding in at 62.03 and an amplification score of 49.63, which essentially kind of forecasted a little bit right here around this chop and this light move before we saw this larger move right here. Amplification rose, that's the 49.63, this bubble right here that we were talking about last week. And you should check out that video because we were talking about it's the Bitcoin. When you look at our page, it's the Bitcoin to 160 video where it kind of shows this data. But it shows amplification, this is still a very high amp score. Remember, 50 is an excellent amplification score. And we saw that medium chop, and then we re-recorded this right here on July 23rd to, of course, July 25th. And the amp score had moved up significantly to 53.61, and then boom, that's when you had the move over the weekend. This is a good example of how amplification starts to kind of point at these. Now, what I've done here with this little green line, just to kind of give you guys some potentials here, that's not what amplification is pointing at. That's just me looking at that we're probably going to see some volatility in the movement. In other words, we could see Bitcoin hit that 40K line and then drop down and potentially start to see these kind of all-time, or the new high lows or low highs, however you want to say it, kind of rolling out. So look for and expect some volatility this week on Bitcoin, because I think that's kind of the scenario. We are going to be running an amplification score during the last 24 hours. I'm going to try to bring that video to you. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have some looks at this as to whether or not this can sustain. Maybe by then we're over the 40K. That could give us some even more indicators around where this is moving in terms of sentiment and also just in general the amplification score. Again, this moves back to the whole approach, and we get this a lot within the community, within our chat, and also just in general. If that 30K was the bottom, then the preparation needs to begin. And when I say preparation, what I'm talking about is, if this is the next layer of the bull run, the likelihood is we're going to see a lot of opportunities really start to move into it. And if you think about what a lot of people were doing in April, as Bitcoin was taking its step up to the 60K mark, were you taking profits? Were you doing some strategic moves in your portfolio to prep for that as it went up? And what I mean by that is just pretty simple. If you are owning Bitcoin, you're in, and you're looking at taking your profits on the way up, I think a lot more people are going to do that, which makes me feel like we could have a little bit slower run up on Bitcoin, just in the sense of people taking profits as we move. Maybe at the 45 to 50K mark, we might see a little profit come off the table. Definitely, I think once we hit 60, we will see quite a few people probably start to look at their first layering of profits. And I think that's where it's going to get very interesting on how Bitcoin, because I think you will get in that FOMO crowd around investing, especially if it shoots past 60. So this is going to be the things to watch in the bull run if and when this is actually happening. And I feel pretty confident that this looks to be the case right now. Maybe 30 was our new low, and it looks like we're on set for a very interesting thing. Here's the key right here, and again, always be watching out for, and that is you've got to look for these indicators that really start to push the price, but also push the technology and some of the blockchain applications that are kind of rolling out there, including Cardano. I mean, I know we're probably going to try to come back and do some Cardano updates on this. You've got Alonzo coming, you've got ETH 2.0. All of these kind of factors really play into the overall crypto market. And then, of course, you've got Bitcoin currently on pace with the news from things like what Amazon is doing strategically. I think the other thing that you should be watching out for is with Amazon moving into the space, guess what? We're going to see a lot more people starting to go after Amazon and with them, and this could mean other major players, including Google, Apple, the likes of companies in the tech space that really will already be moving that direction. Obviously, we've already seen Facebook kind of go in this direction with their own cryptocurrency and DeFi project. But I think with Amazon, it's a different application because you are utilizing or potentially have the case to utilize it for a purchasing power leverage, especially if they launch their own coin and we see some sort of value over there with Amazon. All of this plays into it. So as we watch Bitcoin rise out like a phoenix this week, I think the key here is to be somewhat pessimistic, but also very positive on where Bitcoin potentially could go. And I think Amazon is definitely going to be one to watch as the story develops, because this is going to be an interesting thing to kind of see come along. It's going to be one that I think as we see not only the news elements, but actually the rollout will be very interesting, probably around Q4. If that occurs in Q4, whoo, big time. This could really stretch out the bull run into 2022, which has been the big factor here of when the bull run re-engages as we near the end. We have 3 weeks before school's going back into session. That's going to put traders back on the floor a lot more. And when I say back on the floor, back in the seats there from your own home trading centers. And I think a lot of people are really going to start looking at this in a much more different way as we move into the fall month, which is where everybody has been kind of pointing at, that being September, as the period in which the bull run would be at its high. Now, there's some pundits out there and some experts that are pointing into 2022 only because of the things that have happened to elongate this kind of lull in the bull run cycle, because this has been a bit of a long lull when you think of it back to May, and here we are almost into August. That would be the factor that really could take it into 2022. So make sure and stay tuned right here for more material just like this. If you're over on the podcast, thank you so much for the subscription, and make sure and give us a comment over there. If you're here on YouTube, best thing to do is just subscribe to the show. Leave a few comments down below. We read our comments. We also take it in. I know you guys are asking for us to jump in on our premieres. We are going to try to start going live soon to get more activity going with some of our interviews. We have some new shows. Maybe you've seen some new hosts showing up here. So stay tuned. There's a lot happening here on TechPath and the Paul Barron Network. Of course, always hit me up on Twitter. It's just @PaulBarron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.